Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Michelle.
Here we have the geometric hierarchy of numbers task cards. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I think when you walk into an elementary classroom, often this is the material that is drawn to your eye. I want to say, is this the largest?
Yes, the largest.
The largest Montessori material that we
Yes.
have? I mean, you've got your million cube, and I'm not exaggerating,
Yes.
that's how big that is. And so it's sitting there in the corner. It's a wonderful material because the child actually gets to see, in terms of like place value, just what the difference between a unit and a million is. I think even adults have a hard time envisioning what that looks like. And so obviously with that material, and I think you'll see this in 6 to 9 classrooms and in 9 to 12 classrooms, there is a presentation that obviously goes with it, and you're using it to show, well, obviously place value, but also exponents, because by the time you get into the million, you're showing, okay, million is actually 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, it's 10 to the 6th power, and so it's interesting that there are so many materials that we have in our Montessori classrooms that are really in service of the same bigger concepts like place value.
Yes.
So there's so many materials that are with place value, and this is another one like them. So after you've given the material, it's kind of a one-trick pony. You give that material, and there's always sort of like a, okay, well, well, now what? And I think often we say, well, the child could repeat the demonstration, but I think once you get out of 3 to 6 and into 6 to 9, they're not as interested in just repeating. Where I think when I'm 4, I get that energy, right?
Yes.
I want to do something over and over and over again. I get to be like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and well, okay, I already did that. Like, what do I want to do new? And so I think the task cards really sort of fill a nice need specifically for this material, in that it's independent work. And so the child doesn't start with this because they haven't seen the material that has been presented to them yet. It's a follow-up. And if we think of, we have our 3-period lesson within the lesson, but if we thought just in general terms that the first period is maybe any time that the teacher presents the work, and the second period is when the child gets it out, well, this allows the child to do work more with that material and the concepts of that material without necessarily just having to repeat the same presentation. So for these task cards, and sometimes we would call these maybe command cards as well. I think task cards is probably a better name for them because they are distinct tasks for the child to do. But it's going to start, we have them in an array here, and we start from a little bit more simple and they get a little bit more complex. And what I like about these cards is it starts with the physical actual piece, and so identify the value of this, identifying the value of this, taking them from the hierarchical material, starting with the unit and the 10 and the 100 and building yourself all the way up to the millions. Then it switches and says like, okay, well now I'm going to give you the number, what's the material? And so again, classic second period there. So how many units are in here? How many units are in the 10,000? How many units are in the 100,000? And of course there's an answer on the back, and so yes. The child isn't like writing the answers and then having to go. It's independent. They're able to check their work on their own. And then we go even further. Like now, I'm going to show you a number. How would you represent it with the material? I'm going to show you how would you show this with the material. And then moving forward, again, even a little bit more. Asking about which material is going to have that with that in a square. How many of them are going to be cubes? How many of them there? Our last ones there are actually identifying, like lay out the geometric hierarchy in front of you. Bring the following pieces from there. So now you're looking really third period where the child has to identify that, has to go fetch it, and then bring it back. But again, there's the answers are always on the back for them. So a great material for a great task card material for a material that often doesn't have a lot of follow-up to it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.